Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by my good friend, the sexy shepherdess, the penultimate legend, the sexiest voice in triathlon, James Bale. How you going, Jimbo?
Mate, I'm really well. I'm better than I have been the last few days. I've been recovering from a bit of an adventure over the weekend, and and now I can walk around and lift things again. How are you, man?
Yeah, it's been a week, hasn't it, for both of us? Actually, a week of change. James Bale is a way of putting it, because you have gone and done your first ultra. Is that what we call it? Again, obviously, I'm the biggest cycling fan. I don't know that much. So you did an ultra marathon off in the bloody the Swiss Alps or the French Alps or the European Alps or some form of Alps.
Yeah. Down in the Rhone Valley, 55k with exactly 2,949 meters of climbing. So it was a big shift, mate. To be honest, what's your change been? I
have worked with an incredible coach called Ben Hammond for the last nearly 8 years, and over the weekend I decided it was time for a bit of a change. So I am, for the first time since 2014, without a coach. Hopefully I will find a coach soon. So if anybody is listening who can put me in touch with a very, very good coach, please do. But yeah, it's been. No, absolutely not. I want to get better. So,
so you're out to market then, Ford?
I'm out to market. Yeah. So it's weird, mate. It's very it's a bizarre thing, because again, I think I've been coached for literally 8 years with Benny, and Ben was again very amicable with everything. It was just, again, I think it was time for a bit of a change to try things new. I've made a whole bunch of changes this year, but that's probably my big thing, mate. So it's been an interesting week. I'm taking a bit of a break from work. So this is one of my little forays into work is just to this podcast, because I'm so committed to our audience, James Bale. But and obviously lockdown in Sydney, and so I'm out doing stuff again, mate. Seeing people, going out for meals. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff. But James, guess what? This podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. James, what's something that you like about MX Endurance?
Well, as we both know well, mate, the race team is the backbone of what MX Endurance does. It's the front line out there representing the group and the community, and it's the applications for the race team are open. So now's the time, people.
Yeah, it is that time of year. Literally, I've been surprised actually how many applications have come in so far. I think because we had such a big intake last year, we're probably not. I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess it'll depend on the quality, but if you're interested, again, you get all the benefits of the podcast membership whole. But we're about to publish what the new kits look like. They're so good. Head to mxendurance.com. You'll find all the information there. I'll put the link in the show notes, or if you're on YouTube, down below, and get an application. We really want to, again, get people who are going to be, as James said, the backbone of our community. Now, James Bale, we're going to start talking about the backbone of triathlon off the bat. Actually, I don't know if that's the appropriate term, but he's certainly one of the alpha males or alpha athletes of triathlon, and that is Jan Frodeno. This came from Kevin McKinnon at Triathlon Magazine Canada. It's actually been a bit of a hot topic in the MX Endurance group this week, and that is the question: will Jan Frodeno make it to another Kona? In a story posted in Germany's in a German newspaper, I'm just going to leave it at that, last week, Frodeno hinted that getting to Kona might be a stretch. He's 40 now and would be 41 for next year's World Championship event in Kona. He said, "Let's see. I hope to be able to experience Hawaii again as a professional," he told the newspaper, comparing his age to the 200-kilometer point of a 226-kilometer full-distance race. "But I feel much better than at that point of a competition," he joked. Challenge Roth organizer Felix was quick to volunteer his race as a possible retirement race for Jan Frodeno. James Bale, this is a thing that is... it's been, I guess, whispered for a few years ago. What are your thoughts? Are we going to see Jan Frodeno maybe not make Kona next year?
No, I think he'll be at Kona next year.
I think he'll be at Kona next year.
Yeah, I think this is a story for the sake of a story, maybe.
For podcasts to talk about?
Yeah, possibly. I don't see Jan Frodeno ducking out before Kona. I certainly don't see... I mean, there's a lot of pressure on athletes when they get to that sort of stage of their career from different entities and different stakeholders within the sport, and fans even, to sort of push a retirement story on them. I don't see Jan Frodeno reacting to where to the point of his career right now with retiring at, I don't know, let's say Challenge Roth. I just don't see that as the outcome or the end of Jan Frodeno's tenure within the sport, mate. He's going to race St George, and then I think he's going to race Kona. What he does beyond that, I think, will be based on how those races go. I mean, I don't see an athlete like Jan ducking out before the form has left him.
I have many thoughts about this. Obviously, I'm a huge Jan Frodeno fan. I also don't think we have to worry about seeing him in Kona next year. I'm pretty sure he'll be there. I wouldn't be surprised if he won it again next year. I mean, who knows? So much can change between now and then. But yeah, like we have this notion in the sport that once you hit a certain age, I think I've got it here, the oldest female or male winner was 38. But again, that was Craig Alexander in 2011. So that, yeah, okay, that makes sense because Frodeno won in 2019. Jan Frodeno, we almost have to rewrite the rule book a little bit because he is doing what he's doing at an age where other people have stopped doing it. And I mean, even when we think about, we had him on the show last year and we were talking about, getting older and stuff. And yeah, he said it himself. Like he'll only ever go to a race when he, if he thinks he can be competitive and thinks he can win it. So I think what we're going to probably see is, he'll go away. He'll probably get a few more world titles. Maybe it won't be at 70.3 anymore, but it'll probably still be at Ironman. And then I don't know. We've said it. What has he got left to prove in terms of titles? Because he's literally won everything. I like the fact that we're starting to see him do things like go for world records and set the benchmark and stuff like that. There's again whispers what we're going to see in California in a couple of weeks or whenever it is fascinating. And yeah, I guess my only not a concern. I don't think it's none of my business, to be honest. But I love the thought of Jan sort of winning and just like, I'm done, I'm out. See you later, going out on top. That would be the perfect finish for an athlete of his standards. So, yeah.
I don't think we'll see him hang on too far. I don't think we'll see him do the sort of slow descent into mediocrity. But I think putting words and thoughts into a man's head, really, aren't we? But I get the impression that he doesn't. That he's very in tune with his form and how good he is at what he does. And I don't think he'll walk away at a point where he's still got titles in him.
Yeah, I agree. Why would you? Like, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. It's a conversation. I think it's more that people are asking him rather than he's coming out proactively talking about it and he has to answer them. So we'll see. We'll see.
Exactly.
Speaking of Jan Frodeno,
the answers will be assisted by the next story, eh?
I suppose so. Well, I guess the outcome of the next story will certainly be a good indicator of what is going to happen. This comes from Graham Shaw at Try 24/7, and that is Ironman California. Make that Frodeno versus Iden versus Lionel Sanders. That's right. Lionel Sanders is to race Ironman California. Sanders has had a grueling 2021 schedule, including full distance races at Ironman Coeur d'Alene, the Tri Battle Royale against Frodeno, Ironman Copenhagen, and Ironman Chattanooga. Just days ago, he described 2021 as the Ironman year and said that California was off the agenda after his distant second behind Joe Skipper in Chattanooga. He reasoned, I feel like there is no need for me to go to Ironman California because I'm not competitive right now. Fast forward a few days, though, and clearly Sanders is not willing just yet to call time his 2021 adventure. And the lure of a massive challenge against the likes of Frodeno and Iden was too good to turn down. For Iden, of course, Sacramento will be his debut at the Ironman distance. He heads to California on the back of another dominant 70.3 victory. And Frodeno, meanwhile, will have taken motivation from the fact he's no longer the number one PTO-ranked athlete. James Bale, three-way battle. What do you think?
He was feeling left out, wasn't he? He was feeling left out. All that media attention about Iden and Frodeno and Sanders. I want a piece of that. No, I mean, right. He's done a lot of racing this year, so we may be about to see a car crash of a race from him. But he's got a new coach who will be giving him advice, and he'll be looking at his numbers. He'll be looking at his metrics. He'll be looking at his data, and I imagine. Looking into a story like this, you would have, as a commentator, you would have to assume that any sensible athlete would not be going to a race that they did not see the numbers were there for them to perform at. but this is Lionel Sanders. So who fucking knows?
Yeah, I don't know, mate. Like, I think you've said something that's very, very accurate. Is that he has a very, very good team around him now, and Mikel Iden, I think, isn't an idiot, and would be basing this decision on numbers and things like that. And then the other thing we also have to consider that yes, these guys are professionals who make their living from the race. Maybe he just loves it. Maybe he just actually wants to go and participate. He wants to go and see Gustav race Frodeno and be part of it. Like, I get it. Because, I'd love to go watch it. So imagine if you could watch it by actually being part of it. Like, I completely understand. And if it means that, you might fade on the run, or, the other thing to consider with Lionel is there's been that many times this year where we've gone or people have gone, surely this is going to be too much for him. Like, talking about the Collins Cup a week after Copenhagen. And I still think his performance at the Collins Cup was one of, if not the most impressive performances because of that. Like, he just he continues to exceed expectations, and I'm more excited about. I was already very, very excited about this race because I really want to see Gustav race Jan. And does this make me more excited about that battle? Not necessarily, but does it make me more excited about the race? Absolutely, because Lionel just adds something that you'd never know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's going to be, mate. It's going to be the unofficial World Championships, and as we saw. Frodo tweeted at us during the week. Basically, a group of them got together at the Collins Cup and all said, "Let's go do this race together." And it's good to see, mate. So
yeah, I like that. I like that sort of coordination. And how you say, Jan Frodeno tweeted at the podcast this week that they had him and Gustav and a few others that got together at the Collins Cup and decided that California was the puppy. So it's going to be a hell of a race, mate. And like you say, I agree with you. The addition of Lionel Sanders is no bad thing. Certainly, when it comes to a narrative and an additional layer of interest to that race and the coverage that hopefully the good coverage that we get from it. Please give us good coverage.
Mate. Yeah, again, is it? I hope it's been covered. Is it going to be one of the Ironman live races?
I hope so. You'd think if they were an organisation who knew what they were about, they would see the start list on this, see the lack of a Kona at the end of the year, and think, I will put some coverage on this one because people will watch it.
Yeah. Speaking of coverage, the next piece of news also comes from Graham Try 24/7, and that is Flora Duffy Bermuda hails Flora Duffy on her return to Bermuda amidst all the success and excitement. There's been a tinge of genuine sadness for Flora Duffy with the news that WTCS Bermuda, scheduled for October 15th to 17th, has been cancelled due to the ongoing COVID pandemic. Despite being left devastated and heartbroken, she vowed to still return home as planned, and on Monday she arrived to a hero's welcome. Duffy travelled across the island in a motorcade as fans lined the streets to hail her arrival back in her homeland. The route took Flora to Warwick Academy, where she studied, and to Cabinet Office in Hamilton. It was there she addressed the crowds with a speech. During the speech, Flora paid tribute to the only previous athlete to claim an Olympic medal for Bermuda, and fittingly, boxer Clarence Hill, who claimed bronze in Montreal back in 1976, was on hand to greet her. She said, when I was in Tokyo, there was no one in the stands, nobody on the streets. My family was not there. My friends were not able to come. So to arrive back in Bermuda and to get the welcome that I've had and the events in the weeks to come, it feels really special. I've never left an airport in a motorcade like that and had people screaming down the streets. And so thank you to everyone who came out. It made me feel so welcome, so proud. I'm just so honored that I could represent Bermuda in Tokyo, win our first gold medal, and be here to celebrate with everybody. And don't forget, everybody, next Monday, the 18th of October, is officially Flora Duffy Day on the island and a public holiday. Jimbo.
Very, very cool. What a play. What a way to come home. She's certainly deserves the adulation and the respect of the population of where she's from. And as she said in her quote, it must have been a very strange Olympics to compete at, let alone win at, with the lack of support, the lack of spectators, the lack of family members, the lack of even support people around you. You're gonna travel with your national coach, and that's probably it. So for an athlete in our sport, which is a smaller sport than most, to get that kind of welcome, having won a gold medal in their home country, is that's pretty special, man.
I think for a lot of people, it's probably hard to comprehend how significant that would be for the people of Bermuda. Like, it's their first ever gold medal. Like, again, as an Australian, like, we've got a strong history of winning a lot of gold medals, and to win a gold medal in Australia is a big deal. Like, every time an Australian wins a gold medal at the Olympics, it's a big deal. So I can only imagine what it must be like for that to be the first ever gold medal, and the fact that, like, she's got a public holiday named after her.
That's how important it is. You get a public holiday named after you. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine if I ever did something that the UK made a day James Bale Day, it would blow my mind.
James.
It would be. Imagine having the whole. It would be quite. I don't think it would do my mental health any good, mate, to be honest.
Well, we've both got things named after us. You've obviously got the brand MJ Bale named after you, the clothing brand, and I've got Tom Ford glasses named after me. So we're both doing okay, mate.
Yeah,
we're almost named after us. So
my cousin Gareth seems to handle the fame quite well, but I struggle.
Do you have that brand in the UK? I don't actually know if it's a UK brand, but
I've never heard of them.
Now, we have this brand here called MJ Bale, and every time I see it, I'm like, Mr. James Bale. So I don't buy any of those clothes because I don't want the association with you, but maybe I will one day.
You should get a T-shirt.
Hustle. But again, Flora Duffy, so incredible this year. Like we said, it's not just the Olympic gold, but the fact she also won the WTCS World Championship, the first person to ever do that, I believe. I mean, very, very quickly followed up by Christian Blumenfeld. But she, just a super, super athlete. I think she has, Flora Duffy, perfection. And then, I don't know what to say. She's done amazing stuff, and
she's got much more to come as well, hasn't she? Many more things to do in the sport, many more things to achieve. Do you think we'll see her in Paris?
Why not, mate? I think I wouldn't be surprised if we do. Again, she's come into that. She's really just developed. You look at her progression to the sport, the fact that she's where she is now, you hold on to that as long as you can. I do hope, just as me being me, that we will start to see her race some longer stuff, because, again, I just want to see Flora Duffy do it. But I'm just, any opportunity that Flora races, I'm always happy, because I just love the way she races. Like, it is a very good way as a spectator to watch. So, yeah, it's good. Glad she got that.
I concur, old boy. Now, shall I lead on the next one?
I mean, I could fight you for it, because obviously we're both good friends with the subject of the next thing, but I will allow you to. I give you permission.
Yeah, so I was on the phone to Olympic bronze medalist, Mr. Hayden Wilde, yesterday, and he just casually dropped in the conversation that he's going to be racing the Xterra World Champs that have been moved to December the 5th. So, yeah, the 25th edition of the Xterra World Championships off-road triathlon at the Ritz-Carlton Kapolei in Maui has moved from its tentatively scheduled date October the 31st to December the 5th.
What did you say? Did you call it the Ritz-Carlton?
I said Ritz.
The Ritz. Ritz-Carlton.
I may have had.
I mean, it is a very expensive hotel, so I think it's a pretty good Freudian slip to make. But I heard that, I was like, did I hear that?
It's a 1.5k rough water swim. A 32-kilometer mountain bike that climbs 2,800 feet and finishes with an 11-kilometer trail run. And Mr. Hayden Wilde is intending to go there and compete for the share of $100,000 in prize money. Now, Hayden's got a history of Xterra. He's a two-time under-19 champion, so he's not new to this kind of discipline. And I think his comment was, while I'm here, I might as well do something while I'm stuck over here. So he's going to go and Xterra it up. I quite fancy an Xterra, mate.
Good luck with you. Do it. Yeah. Why not? You're a trail runner now. So, I'll be honest. I think I saw this in the doc, and I was like, I wouldn't mind doing an Xterra race one day, to be honest. But again, Hayden Wilde doing great things. I don't know if people saw during the week, but Hayden got basically, what was his phone, his computer, his passports, and everything stolen in Spain. And so, again, it's probably worth talking about. Again, I understand every country's dealing with COVID their own way, but it's basically impossible for Hayden Wilde to get back to New Zealand at the moment. I've been following him every time he puts up his thing about trying to get his spot back into New Zealand, and he's like 20,000th in the queue. Man, it's like
I don't really understand that. I see the Instagram thing where he puts up the video and he's at a computer and there's 19,000 people in front of him and he has to. I don't know what he's doing. What's he doing? What is that?
Hotel quarantine places, I think, that they have a finite number of spaces available for people to quarantine when they get back to New Zealand.
Right.
So it's a lottery. It's literally like a lot, like almost like the Norseman entry, where it's like
Bloody
a.
hell. That's not
Yeah,
very
it's-
cool, is it? Like, you'd think. I don't know. I don't know whether you should,
Olympic bronze medalist.
yeah, I don't know whether you should or shouldn't. If you shipped a load of athletes out of your country to represent your country at the Olympics at your behest. I mean, the National Federation and the government have said you need to go and compete for us at the Olympics, and then to not give them the ability to get back in.
I think the issue is that he chose to stay after if he had have gone straight back after Tokyo, I think he would have gone with the rest of the team. But because he elected to then go and, do his job as in race WTCS events and Super League, that's why he falls into the general. I think, again, I keep getting shit wrong every fucking week on this show and keep getting people messaging me going, actually, did you know Martin Van Riel raced the 70.3 in China? Actually, Danielle Reef is not the... Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Thank you. I know.
People of the internet. People of the internet, do me a favor. I am like...
Message James Bale.
Don't
even
message
if it was
James
me.
Bale.
Even if it's me, tweet James Bale.
Do me a favor. Whatever it is you're responding to, whether it's an article, whether it's a post on Instagram, whether it's a podcast that you just see the intro title for, read more than the headline. Listen to more than the headline before you send me a message saying, "But actually," because, dude,
here's an idea, actually. This is something I like the idea of. So one of the podcasts I listen to that they do live, they have a form on their website which is literally called You're Wrong. And the idea is anything they get wrong, their listeners type in and tell them what they've got wrong. At the end of the episode, they go through it and correct it. Maybe we should introduce something, because again, let's admit it, we don't know what we're talking about. Maybe we should introduce a similar sort of thing where we create a form on our website and then all the people who listen every week and they're like, actually, their swim split was 27.23 minutes, not 27.24. If they want to put that stuff in, they can put, and we'll just read through it at the start of the episode. We'll just like, we're sorry. This is the stuff we got wrong on last week's episode.
Yeah. Well, you spend a half a day on the phone sorting something out, and then someone tells you it's not sorted out. Unreal. But there you go.
Unreal. There you go. James Bale, the next piece of news is about Olympic athletes again, or former Olympic athletes, and that is that Alistair Brownlee has been elected to the EOC Athletes Commission. This is from Try 24/7. Do you know who wrote the article? I'm assuming it was probably John Levinson or Graham Shaw. They seem to do the majority of the articles over at Try 24/7. Any idea? Do you want
No, I don't.
Is one of them? One or the other?
One of them, yeah.
Great website, guys. As always, go over to Try 24/7. They said some very nice things about our podcast this week. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Alistair Brownlee may have called time in his short course career after winning gold in London and Rio, but he will maintain a close association with the Summer Games after being elected to the European Olympic Committee Athletes Commission. The 33-year-old British star was elected at the 6th Assembly of the group in Croatia this week. He joins 5 other newcomers for a commission which gives athletes a voice in key decision-making and will also take place on the British Olympic Association's Athletes Commission. Brownlee was honoured by the election. Brownlee said he was honoured to be elected and went on, "I'd like to thank the Athletes Commission of Europe for putting their faith in me and the BOA Athletes Commission for their support. I'm looking forward to working hard to represent Europe's Olympics athletes." BOA Athletes Commission Chair Ben Hawes expects the 2-time Olympic champion to continue the huge contribution he's made to Team GB and its Olympic history down the years. He said, "As a double Olympic champion, Alistair made a huge contribution to Team GB and the Olympic movement, and I have no doubt he will be an exceptional representative of the EOC in ensuring that athletes' voices from around Europe are heard and recognised." Jimbo.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly very experienced, isn't he? And very passionate. He's got he's not stupid, Alistair Brownlee, and he's got a lot of thoughts and a lot of passion to bring to the sport outside of his athletic achievements. So I think, and he doesn't fuck about. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's not Mr. Nicey just for the sake of it. I think when he's got something to say or he's got a point to be made, he will make it. And I think that sort of drive and attitude will be a good thing to bring to a role like this. So I'm pleased that this has happened, mate, and be interested to see what he does with it and how involved he is.
I very much see Alistair Brownlee as there's a sort of athlete where he is one of those rare athletes. He's bigger than triathlon, and I can't see him being a guy who races his career, retires, and then just hovers around triathlon. Like I can see him going into these. Yeah, he's certainly not going to do that, but I can see him doing like these more sort of bureaucratic or that this to me makes a lot of sense. I
Like
guess we see that
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can see him on that trajectory where he does become those bigger, bureaucratic roles within sport. That's very much where I could see him heading. Because, I mean, you know better than me. He's a proper household name in the UK compared to a lot of other triathletes in their countries. So,
he's probably the only household name in the UK when it comes to triathlon. Anybody I speak to who doesn't know the sport and knows that I work in the sport, the only question I get from a British person is, "Oh, do you work with Alistair Brownlee?" Because that's the only thing they know.
Even though his brother has had more Olympic medals and has in fact completed the set.
Yeah, I mean they'll say that, or the Brownlee brothers. The Brownlee brothers come as a sentence pairing. But yeah, in the UK there is, outside of people who do the sport, there is no knowledge of triathlon other than the Brownlee brothers, really. No one would know who Jan Frodeno was. No one would know who... I mean, yeah, now after the Olympics, they might know some Olympic champions if you're lucky, but...
I still would love to have been a fly on the wall the first time they got together afterwards, and at some point you just know Johnny would have been like, yeah, you got 2, I got 3. I've completed it. I
bought a rack for my bedroom, and mine's got 3 pins
First,
on it.
Second, third. It'd be amazing. What is not amazing, however, is the next article or the next piece of news we're about to go through. And James, because you put this in the doc and because it is about the great nation of Australia, I feel it is best that you lead us on this one because it is unfortunately not very good.
It's not good, is it? It seems a bit your cricket team has rubbed off into the triathlon.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about it. We have a lot of Americans.
Triathlon Australia accused of race fixing to gain more Olympic spots. This came from Triathlon Today website. According to a story published in last weekend's The Sunday Telegraph in Sydney, and also reported on InsideTheGames.biz, a number of Australian coaches were approached to manipulate the results of qualifying races. Australia managed to qualify the maximum number of athletes for the Tokyo Olympics, 3 men and women. Both the women's and men's team nailed the final spots during the last weekend of qualification. 3 coaches independently told the Sunday Telegraph that they were told by Triathlon Australia that they only wanted certain athletes to win qualifying races in the lead up to Tokyo so they could boost their rankings and secure the extra quota spots. Triathlon Australia denies the accusations. No race results, and I quote, "no race results are predetermined, particularly in an open international field," the organisation told the Sunday Telegraph. As with all sport, athletes must perform to win. However, Triathlon Australia unashamedly maximised its opportunity to qualify its quota of athletes through a specific race schedule. Many sports make strategic decisions that are part of competition to fall within the fabric of sport and fair play. It would be an expectation that Australia teams consider a strategic approach to competition scheduling. End quote. Australia had a tough time at the Olympics, with the highest placing in the individual racing going to Jake Birtwistle, who finished 16th. The mixed relay team finished 9th. 2-time world champion Emma Carney has been particularly outspoken about Triathlon Australia, who have suspended the 1994 and 97 world champ. Inside the Games reports that the association reached out to its members with the following statement. Since its concerted campaign of destabilisation began, Triathlon Australia has repeatedly offered to meet with the former elite triathlete to provide the opportunity to discuss their concerns directly, but all of these offers have been rejected. Thoughts, Tim Ford?
Fucking hell. I think firstly, the headline is probably a bit more shocking than it's needed to be. It's not like they're like, I guess it's not, as they've said, it's not really match fixing more as it is, let's maybe get athletes to sit out certain races or get athletes to do certain races to try to maximize the opportunities to earn those points. But it's not a good look, is it, to be honest?
And the headline's not a good look, no. I mean, I'm trying to unpack it in my head. Are they saying you've got a World Cup happening in Australia or somewhere, and the Australian team have got three athletes, 3 male athletes, 3 female athletes in it, for example? Are they saying to those athletes, that person has to win? If you two are in the lead, drop back a bit because that person has to maximize their points?
I hope not. I hope not. That's all I can say, because that to me is very, very bad if that's the case. I think that's where the grey area. And again, the issue it could be like, well, we're not going to tell you to lose, but you know what? If this was to happen,
have we not seen people working as domestiques in triathlons before?
Yeah,
though?
Yeah. This is what I was going to say. This is where I'm not like, let's look at what happened recently in Super League when they introduced the teams, and we saw athletes going out to do things like grab a short shoot to take it away from somebody else. You don't call that match fixing, you call it tactics. So this is where this, to me, is a bit, like I said, Triathlon Australia, they're like 100%. We played the game, basically. We knew what we needed to do to maximize our slots. We have conformed to within the rules. We have used the system to maximize our slots at the Olympics. From that point of view, good, like, well done. I mean, it didn't work for us. It was clearly probably a futile attempt in the end, considering 16th was the best we did. But if it goes to what you were saying, where it is a case of don't work for the other athlete, if you're winning, lose, that's where I think it's problematic. I don't know. Nobody will know. They've denied it.
I mean, because Britain was working hard for that extra slot, and you had Alistair Brownlee sort of doing turns for, what's his name?
Tom Bishop,
the guy that didn't get the slot. So there is a line. There is a fine line, and it's a grey area between Alistair Brownlee working for Tom Bishop in a race and Tom Bishop sitting on his wheel, or this. I mean, yep. There's a grey area there. It's not a good.
So let's look at it this way. If let's use the Alistair Brownlee Tom Bishop situation as a purely as an example. Don't at me, okay? I understand. I know there's a crash. I get it. It's a different thing if you have an athlete in there who works for another athlete. That, I think, is a legitimate strategy. Yes, it's not. We hear about it's an individual. It's not. It's a team sport. In the short course, they work together. It would be a different case if Alistair Brownlee suddenly is having the race of his life. He's like, yes, I'm back to my 2012 form. This is incredible, and he intentionally underperforms or stops himself from winning the race to allow Tom Bishop to beat him to maximize the points. That's when it's not clear cut. But that's where it becomes problematic, because again, you can do it. You actually can. I think we've seen. There are examples of this in the past where, that an athlete's basically slowed down the finish chute to allow another athlete to pass it, to not necessarily for Olympics. It's not like this is unheard of. But it is. You're right. No, such a
the two
grey
British
zone.
Athletes that got disqualified for crossing the line together, hand in hand, and not racing it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know Tommy Morwood's opinion on this, because he's quite tied into that world. So we'll see. We'll see what he's got to say.
The other thing about this, I think it is worth noting, and again, I don't have any. Yes, I'm a Triathlon Australia member. I'm a Triathlon Australia coach. Is the Emma Carney thing? I think this is a very, very interesting thing to bring in, because anybody in Australia would have known that they talk about the fact that all Triathlon Australia members were sent a letter from the board, basically directly addressing what Emma Carney has been saying. And Emma Carney came out, and she's been quite, I don't want to say aggressive, she's been very forthright in saying, displaying her displeasure. And
my Twitter feed is full of her tweets currently, mate. Every day I wake up, there's a new one.
Yeah, so there's obviously stuff going on. I mean, this isn't a Triathlon Australia bubble either. I know that Triathlon Canada have been having a lot of struggles in the last few months and weeks as well. But I also think that, there's not necessarily a bad thing of being a bit of a shake-up after, I think personally, again, purely personally, that Australia's performances at the Olympics do warrant us looking at how we do things and trying to improve on them. Whether that's attacking people personally and saying, this is shit, we've got to throw the system out. Not necessarily. I'm not saying anybody's doing that, but if this stuff is happening like they're saying, and it is not what we're saying, that sort of, okay, it's within the rules, but not really. So I think, but if it's actually match fixing, I think to me that we have this thing in Australia, we call it the pub test, where if you sat down at the pub, you told people, would they be like, that's wrong or right? I don't think that would pass the pub test. And Yeah, mate. Like I said, it's a bad look for a sport that is already quite like, what the hell is triathlon? If you see, like, the Daily Telegraph is one of the biggest newspapers in Australia reporting on this. That's an issue, I think. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, mate, you just need to sort it out down there, don't you? Start a bit of fair play campaigning or something, because Australia doesn't seem to get it. Cricket, triathlon, come on.
Fuck off, you fucking Brit. But do you want to talk about cricket? How that there was talks that the English cricket team might not want to come to Australia because they were worried they couldn't bring their wives and girlfriends with them.
I think it was. I mean, that again, a headline. Probably worried that Australia would cheat.
Fuck off! Oh my god! No, that's a whole. Let's not. We have American listeners who, as soon as they hear cricket, they're like, "What? I don't know what that is." It's like baseball, but better. Let's move on, mate, because some races happened over the weekend, and as much drama as there is going on with Triathlon Australia at the moment, there was some dramatic racing over the weekend we know only too well, and we're going to start with Challenge Budva. I don't actually know how to pronounce that, to be honest. 2021 results. This is in Montenegro. It was the inaugural challenge. Do you know how to say it? Again, I'm going to get added. Is it Budva?
It must be
Budva.
Must be Budva, like the beer.
Budva? I don't know. It could be like the beer. We're going to start with the women's race. Again, thank you to Graham Shaw at Try247. He's MVP of the episode again this week. As always, guys, go to those websites, give them the clicks, give them the support. They do fantastic work that makes our lives easier, able to do the show. We're going to start with the women. Lucy Hall, third at the duathlon, which was challenged sadly last weekend, had been expected to record the fastest swim of the morning, and she absolutely destroyed the rest of the field to head into T1 with a lead of almost 3 minutes over Emma Billum. Elise Visser, meanwhile, was in fourth and almost 5 minutes off the pace. Hall saw the pack close on her in the first third of the bike, with Billum pulling out to within a minute and a half of her and Visser to just over 3 minutes. The Dutch star then fell away through the next 30 kilometres, and it was Billum who appeared to be the only real threat to Lucy. Hall began the half marathon with a lead of 1 minute 20 over Billum, then gradually extended it to pull clear for a terrific victory by just over 2 minutes. Billum was second, with Visser third, more than 4.5 minutes away. Lucy Hall, again, I really like to see Lucy Hall destroying the swim and then holding on, because she is another one of those fucking good swimmers, and it's good to see her start to get more and more runs on the board or victories. Did you follow any of this, James?
I didn't, because I was racing myself that day. So I didn't follow it while it was happening, but the implications of this race have reached far into my life since then. But we'll get to that. But yeah, Lucy Hall, mate, it's really good to see. She's taking steps up in my mind. You know, she's starting to really be up there, not just coming out of the swim first, then fading through the race, but holding on for victories. And it's always a pleasure to see that. And to finish this race in 4:17:09 and to get the win. Good work, Lucy. Love it.
So in first place, Lucy Hall from Great Britain, 4:17:09. Second place, Emma Billum from Switzerland in 4:19:23. And third place, Els Visser from the Netherlands in 4:21:41. Well done, ladies. Again, Lucy Hall, I like to see her on course, and I like to see her winning. The men's race, mate. This one's going to be a long one, I think. And we should probably point out at the start that we do represent Magnus Ditlev. So we have probably got a pretty good understanding of this, to be honest. But again, this is from Graham Shaw at Try247. He said, Italian Mattia Cecchilaria had a small advantage over Onion Stjanovic exiting the water, with that pair followed by favourite Langer and Nils from Hall a few seconds further back. Ditlev, meanwhile, was a further 50 seconds behind them. Once back on dry land, Lang and Fromhold quickly moved to the head of the affairs on bike, but behind them was Ditlev, who was making a major move. By the time the field had cycled 15 kilometres, Magnus was in front, and by 30 kilometres, he led by more than a minute. Ditlev continued to extend his lead on the bike, and by the time he headed into T2, he had a lead of well over 4 minutes. By the halfway stage of the run, Ditlev led the second place Lang by more than 7 minutes, leaving Patrick to yell out, "How is this possible?" Ditlev maintained that huge gap to come home in front, almost 7 minutes clear of Langer at the line, with Rudy Wilde passing Fromhold in the closing stages. At this stage, there was no hint of the controversy to come. But hours later, Challenge Family released a statement confirming that Ditlev had been disqualified. It read, "It is with a heavy heart that we have to announce the disqualification of Magnus Ditlev after his victory earlier today. The disqualification is due to an unintentional course-cutting action after following the lead bike, which became apparent in the final stages of today's race. All involved regret this decision, but the application of the objective rules as set out by our World Triathlon governing body is an important factor in our sport. In an act of solidarity, pros finishing behind Magnus decided to share their earnings of today's prize money as a token of appreciation for the form Magnus showed. However, James Bale, as you know, the drama did not end there, and some 48 hours later, Challenge released another statement amending Ditlev's disqualification to a 5-minute time penalty. That was enough to restore the Dane to the top of the podium by just under 2 minutes from Langer. The statement read, following Magnus Ditlev's disqualification for an unintentional course cutting and a subsequent protest from Ditlev, they have further investigated the incident. The decision to disqualify Ditlev was based on information available at the time as per World Triathlon rules where course cutting results in disqualification. However, based on subsequent investigation, his disqualification has been returned to a 5-minute penalty. The action was reduced in acknowledgement of the part of the race organisation played in misdirecting Ditlev, for which they have apologised, and as a commitment to put more robust procedures in place to ensure this is not repeated. So Magnus Ditlev was in fact the champion of the inaugural Challenge Budva Montenegro. James, how do you want to go from here? You are the man who was involved with this. Magnus has put it. We've got some comments from Magnus here that you can go through as well, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a series of unfortunate errors, I think would be how I'd put it, because Magnus was on course and took the wrong turn. Now, he took the wrong turn following the lead bike on a course that wasn't laid out particularly well. Certainly hadn't finished being laid out at that point in time. So by the time he'd missed the loop he had to do and then came back to do the second loop, a barrier had been put in place that should have been there from the outset, blocking the route that he did take and directing the lead bike down. And so you got to look at it from the perspective of, yes, the athletes are meant to know the course before they race it. And in World Triathlon rules, that is the case. But when the course is not dictated in a sufficient manner by the race organization and the lead bike itself is going to make that mistake, is an athlete going to be of the state of mind within a race situation to, in that moment, argue with the lead bike and say, no, actually, we're meant to turn right here where there's no course marked? Or no, we'll take the I mean, I'm using, I don't know whether it's left or right. I'm paraphrasing, but, and also there was a lack of a race briefing the day before, so the information was not available to the athletes at that point. So we put the appeal in place, and it was overturned. And it's a good thing that Challenge can be communicative with athletes and teams who support athletes, and they took all the points on board. I had a long chat with Belinda Granger as well. She was very helpful, and so it's good to see it overturned. It's good to see Magnus reinstated as the winner, and so he should have been, really.
I think the only thing that I want to add to that is that almost like what we saw with George Taylor Brown at Super League Jersey a few weeks ago, where she realised she'd been informed that she'd taken the short shoot by mistake. She then corrected it by taking the extra loop to, I guess, mitigate the distance. Magnus was told on the second lap that he had to make up the time because he'd taken a shortcut, and he did that. Well, he's told us that he did that. So I think that's also a mitigating factor, because it's
I mean, he did. The lead bike told him to make up the extra loop. So he did the extra loop that the lead bike told him then to do. It wasn't quite enough. It was a few hundred meters short. But when the lead bike is saying, here's the solution to this, follow me for this extra loop, and the problem will be resolved. And then he does that, but the lead bike gets the extra loop wrong. There comes a point where you just go, fucking hell.
We fucked it.
You can't disqualify him for that. And then initially it was a 5-minute, because it didn't go straight to disqualification. He was told he'd won the race, and then after that he found out on social media that he'd had a 5-minute penalty, but he'd still be the winner, because he was so many minutes ahead. The 5 minutes didn't put him behind Lang, so he was like, okay. But finding out by social media is not ideal. But then going to the podium, and just before the podium ceremony, he was informed by race organisation it had been changed to a disqualification. So there are, I think, lessons to be learned on both sides, weighted heavily on the race organisation side. I think, on this one. But they have done the right thing. They came back and they overturned him, and Magnus was pleased.
Fantastic. Again, great performance. Perfect. So in first place, Magnus Ditlev, 3:46.29, including a 5-minute time penalty. In second place, Patrick Langer, 3:48.21. And in third place, Rudy Weil, 3 minutes, 43 seconds.
Indeed. Should we read out Magnus's statement that you put on Instagram?
Take it away.
What a rollercoaster ride Challenge Budvar was to me. Yesterday, I executed by far my best performance in a triathlon race so far, or so I thought. Leading with more than 4 minutes on the run course, at around halfway on the first loop, I apparently took a wrong turn, followed the lead bike at a point on the course where it seemed there was no marking on the route whatsoever. When I took to the same spot on the second loop, a barrier, which I assumed should have been there from the beginning of the race, had been set up. I didn't realise the problem when it had happened, as there was no marking. Around 15 kilometres, the lead bike pulls down to me and says that we cut some of the route short at the first lap, and that people had told him I should do a loop twice on the way back to compensate. At that point, I was still running very strong and felt confident that I would reach the finish line first, as it was only a matter of a few hundred metres. I followed the lead bike and did a loop twice on my way back and ran across the finish line, believing I'd won. 1 hour later, I was informed that I'd been given a 5-minute penalty for the course cutting, in which case I would still be the winner. 2 hours after that, I got the news that I'd been disqualified from the race. For me, yesterday was an emotional rollercoaster, and I'm sure what happened will be discussed also in the days to come. I don't want to comment too much on it, for that's a lot of feelings and there's difficult decisions involved, but felt the need to give my explanation of what happened yesterday. Firstly, I want to thank my other pro athletes at the event for great sportsmanship and being very supportive and kind to me after this incident. Thank you. I will be back. Magnus since then has put another statement out on Instagram thanking the race organisation for changing their decision and saying onwards, basically.
And again, I also want to mention the fact that when that was the case, that the other pro athletes came together and were going to share the prize money. Like, again, it's just another example of the great sportsmanship we see in triathlon. So really classy action by those guys. So fantastic stuff.
Totally. There's
another race over the weekend, Jimbo, and I'm going to let you lead it because you put this in the doc and because I always struggle to pronounce Daniel's last name.
Ironman 73 Lanzarote happened this weekend with Daniel Beckergaard and Annie Haug grabbing the wins. This was taken from Try 24/7 again. Daniel Beckergaard and Anna Haug claimed victories at the 70.3 Lanzarote 2021 on Sunday morning. Beckergaard, favourite here after his recent third behind Gustav Iden and Sam Long at the Ironman 70.3 World Championships in St George, held off the fast-finishing German Mika Nut to take the men's pro race. Haug, meanwhile, was again dominant as she registered an expected victory in the women's race, coming home in front of British pair Nikki Bartlett and India Lee. So
Did you know that she's the current Ironman World Champion, mate?
Yeah. Actually,
I didn't. Is she? Oh, making me doubt myself.
On the men's side, the subheading is almost correct that Daniel took it all the way, but there is a little journalistic license involved. Beckergaard was second out the water, close behind Slovakia's Richard Varga. Soon after,
who can swim.
He claimed a lead that would hold for the rest of the way. Once on the bike, the Dane quickly moved to the head of the field and stayed there for the rest of the race. He took a lead of just over a minute into T2 from compatriot Thor Benedicts Manson, German Jan Stederman, and eventually second Nut were third and fourth. Nut began the run 1:32 behind Beckergaard, and while he was able to make up some inroads with the fastest final split of the day, 1:16.47, he was never able to get within striking distance of Daniel. The gap between the two at the line was 54.8 seconds, with Madison, recent winner at Challenge Herning, making it 2 Danes on the podium by claiming the third spot. So
right.
on the... Yeah, what do you think? What do you think of Mr. Beckergaard and his victory?
I mean, it's no surprise we're huge fans of Daniel. We've been singing his praises all year, basically. I think we both picked him for the podium at St George. Again, mate, he's just an athlete. When I see him on a 70.3, I just expect him to win or be on the podium. So I'm not surprised. It's a tough course, this again. Lanzarote is a very, very tough race, isn't it?
Oh, there's plenty of wind, there's plenty of elevation, there's plenty of heat. So yeah, it's a mixed bag of the elements, and it's good to see an athlete like Daniel, who's had some very fast races recently, test himself on this kind of parkour. Because
parkour,
yeah,
Isn't that what you do when you jump around buildings and like flip around and land on the car and all that stuff? That's parkour, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just the word that's used for course in cycling.
You're teaching me something. I didn't realize this. There you go. I've learned something new.
So yeah, it's good to see him go out and take a victory like this, and in such a dominant fashion. I mean, I've been picking him for wins all year, and he's had a very, very strong year, and he's got much more to come. So to see him get a victory like this is pleasing to a man that has picked him for wins all fucking year.
Do you want me to do the women, mate? Because you did such a good job on the men's, I'll take through the women if you like.
Yeah, feel free.
Reigning Ironman World Champion Annie Haug had looked as good as ever in William Challenge Roth in brilliant fashion last month, and she started as hot favourite to take the top spot on the podium again. Lee set the pace on the swim, exiting the water with a lead of more than a minute and a half from Estonia's Katie Kivioja, with Haug right behind in third. Bartlett at this stage was fourth, just over 2.5 minutes off the lead. While Haug was expected to improve her position on the bike, it was Bartlett who produced the fastest split of the day with her blistering 2:34.12, allowing her to go into T2 just ahead of the German at the front of the field. Nikki, though, would have no answer to Haug's power on the run as the German swiftly claimed the lead and surged clear to register a convincing victory by more than 8 minutes. She would clock 1:20.48 on the final leg. Lee claimed third spot for Britain, and she had at Ironman 70.3 Nice last month. So in the women's race, we had Annie Haug in first with 4:30.31, second place Nikki Bartlett 4:39.04, and India Lee in third 4:41.35. Annie Haug can run like the fucking clappers, mate. The fact that she ran at nearly 9 minutes in it if she came in behind her on the bike, that's insanity.
Yeah,
insanity.
It's good.
Fucking hell, she's so good, mate. Wow.
I keep comparing her to the Terminator, don't I? And she's just got that. She's got that ping, and I love it. I love seeing an athlete like that because she must be so hard to beat. So hard to prepare for, and so hard to mentally get yourself in the game to compete against. Because you've got a 9-minute lead off the bike, and you still get run down. I mean, how are you meant to get your mind in a place where you compete with an athlete like that?
Again, one of the things I'm getting really excited about now is the next time we see Annie Haug and Lucy Charles come up against each other, now that we know how much Lucy's improved that run, or she's so good across the three. So you're going to assume that Lucy's going to have a pretty comfy lead over Annie, onto the run. Is Annie's run that much better, or has Lucy just done enough now that even Annie Haug can't do anything about it?
Annie's run is that much better.
Yeah.
I see Annie Haug winning. Just see her winning.
Again, I love it. I love that the fact that it's that constantly closing the gap. And again, it's always easier to chase than it is to lead. So again, I'm so excited about that. It's going to be great. But again, incredible performances. Lanzarote's a race that
let's say me and you were hyper competitive, almost.
Tell me. Give me the situation. Come on, let me imagine it. Yep.
Me and you are racing it out for Bahrain 70.3, and one of us is going to take it, but we're going to finish very close to each other. Would you rather be the super strong biker who's getting chased by a powerful run from James Bale, or would you rather be the weaker biker doing the chasing down of James Bale's limp run?
I mean, the thought is so ridiculous to me that I'm struggling to visualize this, if I'm honest. I've been both, to be honest. I did a race, one of my best mates who got me in a triathlon. I did a race with him. I think it was my second ever 70.3. And I got off I'm not joking. I got off the bike with like a 20-minute lead, 20 minutes over him. And he caught me at the finish line. Like, he caught me and he beat me. And I remember the whole time just being like, every time I'd see him at the turn, I was like, he's getting closer. No, I can't run any harder. Horrible experience. And then I've done at Super League Singapore. Remember, there was that race where I chased down one of the other MX guys and I beat him in a sprint finish. And it was so much easier because I had him to aim for. So I would 100% prefer to chase. And yeah, mate.
I choose chaser over chasee every fucking day of the week. I do not like having someone behind me coming up and seeing them getting closer. It fucks with my head.
when I did North Carolina in 2019, where I got my Taupo slot, I actually ran up to the guy who I was trying to beat. And I in my head, this whole thing's like, I'm just going to sit behind him and then I'm going to go at the last kilometer and all this stuff. And he walked the aid station. And I remember going, oh no, I have to go. So I just committed with like 3K to go, running so scared the entire time. And every time you can like imagine the feet behind you. Yeah. And I never want to look back. So I'm running so scared. And then I got to the finish, I checked, I was like, oh, he's miles behind me. This is perfect. Celebrate it. But yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun to be, because you visualize your mind goes to some weird places. Enough about us, James Bale. I found this article on triathlete.com today when I was preparing the doc, and I thought it was actually a good thing to read. We're going to do a rare foray into the world of age group triathlon. We normally focus more on the pro stuff, but I thought this was a good one. And it's an article by Susan Lack, as I said, from triathlete.com, and it's the most common questions about the 2021 and 2022 Ironman World Championships qualifications, with answers provided. So I thought we're going to do a bit of a service for our listeners, because they obviously are people who are probably affected by this and curious about it. So here we go, James Bale. Do you want to take it? We'll go one at a time. We'll take it in turns of reading the question and answer, or do you want me to ask the question and you can read the answer? How do you want to do it?
Let's alternate.
I think so you answer, I'll ask.
All right, okay.
How's that
so
sound?
You're interviewing me, basically.
Yeah. James Bale, will racing Ironman St. George in May of 2022 count against the minimum 12 races required for a legacy spot at the Ironman World Championships?
This does not count against the opportunity to compete in Kona. If legacy athletes race and finish the 2021 Ironman World Championships in St. George, Utah, the race can be used as part of their legacy requirements towards racing the Ironman World Championships in Kona.
Thank you, James. Your knowledge is astounding. I'm so glad I got you to do this for me. My next question for you. How many age group athletes were already registered for the Ironman St. George in May? How many additional World Championship spots will be added to the age group race?
I feel like I should be putting on an American accent for this.
No, please don't. Please do not.
Approximately 2,000 athletes were registered. Ironman has capacity for approximately 1,500 additional athletes.
Excellent. Thank you. Again, I feel I'm getting smarter every time you answer. James, what are the timetables, deadlines for qualifying for St. George, which is the 2021 World Championship event? How will those spots be earned?
Ironman will be adding 2021 qualifying slots to select Ironman races through the end of the year. If spots will be rolled out via any other process, will be shared once it's. If spots will be rolled out via any other process, will be shared once it's final. That's a rubbish sentence. But yeah,
you said it, so why did you say such a terrible sentence? Come on, do better. James, what happens if the Kona races fill up fast? Are people automatically diverted to St. George?
There are 2 days of racing for the 2022 Ironman World Championships in Kona in order to manage the demands of deferred athletes as well as the 2022 qualifying season. Athletes, meaning mathematically it is unlikely to happen.
Interesting. Good to know.
Yeah.
James, how many total spots will there be across the 2 days in Kona in 2022?
Ironman anticipates approximately 5,600 slots total. That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot of athletes. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
It doesn't surprise me. I'm seeing lots of people in my bubble going, oh, I've got a slot for Kona. It's like, fucking hell. All right.
James, how many have already been awarded via deferrals from 2020 and 2021?
Approximately 2,300.
How many spots will there be at each qualifying Ironman for 2022?
Ironman will be sharing updated slot allocations on their website.
James, why were there fewer qualifying spots than usual at Ironman Indiana and Chattanooga? If spots are added later, will they be added to future races or retroactively to races that had fewer spots?
This was based on supply and what was initially 1 day of racing in Kona, plus the unknowns of February. There were limitations on slot allocations. Ironman has since retroactively raised the slot spots to 45 at each race and contacted the next athlete in line in the roll down via email to inform them of their slot.
That's excellent. When will athletes know for sure if they're racing on Thursday or Saturday in Kona 2022?
Well, according to Ironman, this is a priority as we understand the need for our athletes to have this information to plan for their race day. As it currently stands, all age group women will race on Thursday, with a few of the men's age group also racing Thursday in order to fill out the field. Saturday will be the remaining male age group categories. Details are still to be finalised. Fuck that!
What the fuck? What the fuck? I saw that. I saw that question. I thought, what a dumb fucking question. If you're a woman, you race on Thursday. If you're a man, you race on Saturday. So there's men racing on the Thursday.
Looks like it. I'm not a fan of this. I think the
What
women
the
should
fuck
be given
is that?
their own isolated race, and the men should be given theirs if you're going to split it up. Otherwise, you're going to have it's strange. I don't like that.
I don't like that at all.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the women racing on the Thursday anyway. It should be Saturday and Sunday.
No, I know why. I know why they've done that. I had one of our fantastic listeners contact me to tell me the reason for that, and it makes a lot of sense. Is that they need a day in between because they need to do the bike racking, and they can't do it because an Ironman obviously goes all day. So that's the reason, because they have to reuse the pier.
That is, of course, true. And as two aficionados of the sport, we should have known that.
We should. I've never done an Ironman, mate. I don't know this stuff. So, yeah, I don't like that. I'm sorry. I don't like that.
No, I don't like that.
If you qualified for the Ironman World Championships for 2020 and 2020 or 2022, can you race both St. George and Kona, or do you only get one spot?
If an age group athlete qualifies for the 2021 and 2022, they would have the opportunity to compete in both 2021 St. George and 2022 Kona Ironman World Championship events.
What about pros? How will the qualifying system for the 2021 and 2022 races work?
Pros largely have not already qualified for Kona in October because they did not get the option of rolling their 2020 and 2021 qualifications over to 2022. If they race the 2021 champs in St. George in May, then they will have to also qualify for another Ironman for the 2022 championships in October in Kona. However, Ironman has announced they will be adjusting the qualification slots from October. From the St. George Championship in May, the 2021 World Championship race on May 7th, 2022 will offer 16 pro qualifying slots for the 2022 Ironman World Championship in October. These will be distributed as 8 men's pro slots and 8 women's pro slots. These slots are in addition to the automatic qualifiers, which will include former Ironman World Champions for 5 years and the 2021 Ironman 70.3 World Champions. There will not, however, be the traditional podium exemption, which allows the full podium at the Ironman World Champs to auto-qualify for the next year's race. The races offering 2022 Ironman World Championship slots for pros are listed on Ironman's Pro Athlete page. Qualifying for 2022 started on September the 5th, 2021 at Ironman Switzerland and will be continued through August 28th, 2022. I can't wait to get out of this COVID fucking pickle, mate, because it doesn't do my head any good calling the race in 2022, the 2021 World Championships. It fucks with my brain.
I just want to unpack that a little bit. So what they're saying is if you win St. George, or you have won Kona for the last 5 years, you automatically get to go to Kona in 2022.
Sounds like it.
And if you're in the top 8, you get a slot, but there's no exemption if you're on the podium. So that means basically those slots will go to second, third, unless you're in unless you're German. Yeah, okay, that's hurt my brain a little bit, to be honest, a little bit, but
we'll see how it shakes out, shall we?
We shall. Well, look, we've obviously finished up that section. Thank you very much for all your answers about professional triathlon, James. So let's keep our attention on professional triathlon.
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. Do I need to do that anymore?
No, not for long. Soon you'll be able to stop. It's we have something coming. The fine folk at the PTO are putting together a special graphic for us now that we're doing video podcasts. They're going to give us a transition, so you'll be able to stop doing that. I know you love it. I know you practice it about 25 times before we record every time, and I can see the excitement on your face just before you do it. But mate, down low on the PTO. Now, I got this week from Tim Hemming, friend of the show. Tim Hemming, one of the best. Go to Twitter, check out Tim Hemming. We always recommend Tim's stuff because he put an interesting tweet talking about the Frodeno Gustav Iden battle at Ironman California. And he said, now, a quirk of the PTO rankings means even if Iden beats Frodeno, as long as it's fast and relatively close, the German regains his number one position due to Frodeno's Gran Canaria 88-point performance being discarded, where Iden loses 100-point Daytona win. There's a lot to unpack there, mate. But this is something we've talked about a little bit when we were talking about it picks. But basically, it's not a clear case if whoever wins the race moves up a spot.
No, it's not. It's not. And I get that. And I get the gravity and the maths behind even if you win, you may not move up. I don't understand, all right? And I don't think it's good optics for a sport and for a new ranking system that if Iden beats Frodeno, Frodeno can move ahead of him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh,
I can understand them saying Iden beat Frodeno, but so no, or Frodeno no change. But I can't understand it the other way around, where Gustav Iden could beat Jan Frodeno, but then lose his number one spot to the man he's just put into second place. I don't.
Yeah.
That just like, what, mate?
So there's some follow-up tweets, and I'm just going to read one of them from Renee Kelly, and the other one's back to Tim. It says, I'm pretty certain Daytona 2020 points are included in the 2021 season. It's like they are, and that's Eden's lowest scoring tally in his 3 counting races. Hence, it's the top one to drop off if the score's more in California, whereas Frodeno only has to better his 88 points in Gran Canaria to improve. You're exactly right, though. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about the optics of it. So you have everybody, me and you, are talking a lot about this race, about finally seeing Gustav and Jan come up against each other. And Gustav's in first place. A lot of the comments online are being like, he's clearly not better than Jan Frodeno. What? Like, there's a lot of this discussion around. I mean, I sort of agree. I think Jan Frodeno is the best at the moment. Surprise, surprise. But you're exactly right that if Gustav then goes out and goes, you've all said I can't beat him, boom, beats him, but also drops a ranking, to me, that also breaks my brain a little bit. And I understand the reason for it, but I don't understand the reason for it, if that makes sense. Like, I think this is just I guess, one of those issues with the ranking system. They've picked their ranking system. I think it works for a lot of the time, but then you have these situations where it becomes problematic.
It becomes problematic because this is a combination race, isn't it? You know, it's like it's not a the rankings are not a championship. So you don't have finals that decide where people are going to be. But this race in itself is a combination of a season with the two best coming up against each other, number one and number two. And if number one beats number two, but number two then regains number one spot, like that in the mindset of an audience and the mindset of the public is a bit of a head fuck, isn't it? and it undermines a little bit the idea of who is number one and number two, because if that instance were to take place, then you'd be like, yeah, okay, so you're number one, but you lost your final race of the year to the guy who's number two and was in number one spot before you lost to him. Do me a favor.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to go through, because there's real, like, we talk about these rankings like, oh, it's nice, but there's real implications for it, because I've got the breakdown of the prize money for the top 20. So first place number one rank gets 100,000, second 90,000. It goes down by 10,000 increments down to number 20, who gets $10,000. So there's real value in these rankings. And yeah, I can understand objectively the system they have in place. But subjectively, as you said, the optics of, again, and we don't know what's going to happen. I very much still think Jan's probably going to win California, and probably, like, if Jan wins and gets his spot back, that's easy to swallow. But it's not a guarantee. And if Gustav wins and then loses his ranking, and I mean, there's a lot, they could have a slow race. I don't think they will, but there's a lot to play. We've seen a lot of confusion around how the AIT works and people dissatisfied with the AIT that they've been awarded because of conditions and stuff. There's a lot to happen for this to happen. But fuck me if it does. If Gustav beats Jan and goes to number 2 ranking, people they think people are unhappy with the ranking system now. Get ready. Like, fuck, I'm glad I don't work for the PTO social media, because they're going to get fucking destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, this is one specific nuanced outcome. If they have a fast race, Iden wins and Jan's not far behind. In that perfect storm, this could happen. So there are many, many other iterations where that doesn't happen. And if Iden wins by a distance, then, he's fine. If Jan Frodeno wins, then he's fine. And if someone else fucking wins, do you know what I mean? It's not all cut and dry in Ironman racing, because anything can happen. But
you got that tattooed on your calf or something, or
anything could happen. That's not their tagline, is it? Isn't it? Anything's possible.
I don't know. I've never done it. Yeah. I've never done an Ironman. Yeah, this is my excuse for everything now. No. Why do you think that? Why did you think the Man Van Riel had done a 70.3? Oh, I've never done an Ironman. I don't know. That's my excuse for everything.
Not qualified to discuss it, let alone do it. Yeah, man. So we'll see what happens. All eyes on this race, and let's hope that it figures itself out in a way that is aesthetically pleasing to the audience that loves it so much. Because we do, and maybe there are some tweaks that need to be made in this ranking system. Who knows?
I still think some ranking system is better than no ranking system. I want to add that too, and I think they've done a good job of it. So
yeah, too right.
But James Bale, if you think we've done a good job of it, what you can do is you can go to mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for one of our podcast memberships. Gets you access to a whole suite of benefits, including our bonus monthly members-only podcast. We record with Christopher McCormack. We recorded that last week. It's available now for all of our members. We have another one coming up in a few weeks. It gets you access to a whole suite of discounts, including Magic 5 on Run-In, Blue 70, to name a few. You get access to our community and so much other good stuff. It's little as $3.40 a month if you sign up for one of our annual plans, or $49 a year. mxendurance.com/podcast. As James said at the start, we also have our race team applications at the moment. It is a great way to come get involved and help us grow not only MX Endurance, but the wider endurance sports community. We'd love to have you. If you like the show, you're obviously a person who thinks that we do some good stuff at MX, come get involved. We'd love to see you. It's in the show notes. It's in the description beneath if you're on YouTube. James Bell, if they want to find out that and other stuff about MX Endurance, where do they need to go?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook, or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app, and it really helps the show out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend and help us grow the podcast. If you have any suggestions, guests, or you'd like to talk to, or questions, send them through to podcast@mxendurance.com. Now I need to give a final shout out to a friend of mine who did their first ultra marathon last weekend as well, and that's Maria. So well done.
Well done, Maria. Also want to give a special MX shout out to Roger Broadhurst for the birth of his first child that happened this week. So we got a little MX Junior. So well done, Rog. Very, very, and Aaron, congratulations. So always great to see the future triathlete world champions coming into the world. So special congratulations. James Bell, another perfect episode of the podcast. Got a special guest on next week. We're looking forward to recording, maybe two. We don't know what will happen, but until next time, see you later.
Cheerio.